Good afternoon. How are you? All good? You missed a class last week. Tell me, what shall we do today? Psychology in India. I had asked you to do something. Did you do it? So what was it I had asked you to do? 2 experiments you had to study. 2. So which are the 2? Doomsday study, Ash, conformity study. So emotional perception, did I ask you to do that? I already explained it a bit. So any which ways. So I'm all right now. Thank you. So the first one, the doomsday cult. So what was that experiment about?
How the person who kept believing that God would, they kept believing on the aspect of how God would, upon religiously praying to God, the God would save them upon let's come down.
Okay. Okay, this is one way of looking at it. So any other explanation you have? See, this is the reason why this subject becomes a bit tricky. Okay, experiment you have understood, but what is the concept behind that experiment? That we did not understand. So the main thing is, if you believe in something, you don't want to change that belief, but the foundation for that belief, whatever is there, that will not change, but you change all the other things that are around it. So this doomsday cult experiment or doomsday cult, study, what was it about? The person who did it, who was the person? Leon Festinger. So the person's name was Festinger. So this was the person. So there was a cult. So a group of people who had come together and they had a belief system. And the head of this cult was a lady. And what they were thinking, or the lady had said, was that on a particular date, the world is going to end. On that particular date, the world is going to end because of the floods. So what are we supposed to do? So the study done by Festinger was that, see, most of the cults, they do not allow non-believers to enter. So Festinger and his confederates, his friends, they entered the cult, they joined the cult, pretending to be believers. And they were observing what thoughts went on in the minds, how the entire cult was thinking before that date, on that date, and post that date. How they were thinking. So when they joined, and the belief is what? The world is going to end on a particular date. When they joined, the date was, a few days away. When asked, people used to believe that the world is going to end. So we are going to sell everything we have, right? We are going to enjoy the way we want. So they had done it actually. Whatever they had sold, enjoying, right? Any which ways the world is going to end with this belief. The day came, the world did not end. Of course, they were surprised. At the same time, what they started saying, the leader of the cult, she told that the world did not end just because of our prayers. Our belief in God saved the entire world. Right? And she also had prophesied, foreseen that from the outside world, there will be ships coming in and some of the people will be taken away. Rest of the people will die here. None of it happened. But after the day, people did not leave the cult. They just changed the way they were thinking. The thought process now became, because we believe in God, we believe in such and such things, the world was saved. So we are the saviors. The problem is what? Their belief became stronger. What is this? The doomsday cult study. And this study is for cognitive dissonance, what we call as cognitive dissonance. So if something that goes against our belief or what we value, we will not accept it so easily. The information itself, we are going to look at it from a different perspective. What is this? Cognitive dissonance. There is a separate concept which we are going to learn in detail. Okay, in the attitudes chapter, we are going to learn about that in detail. Yes, in social psychology.
With regards to this theory,
Hmm.
what if the planet comes?
And again, they would have said, we believed. So whatever we thought is true. Again, the thought process would become stronger. And their belief in the entire cult would have become stronger. Let's say flood had come, but not all people died. Only few people died. Then they would have said, at least what we believe, to some extent it is true. And rest of the people got saved because we believed in God. So our belief system is not wrong. What is this? Cognitive dissonance related study. Okay. Next. Solomon Asch conformity experiment. What was this about?
Two types of cards were given, wherein one card had a single line, the other card had three lines. The participants were asked to match the same line.
So basically the size of the line.
Yes.
Right? So in the Solomon Asch experiment, so groups were made. Groups. Each group had how many people? 7 to 10 people in each group. Okay. One person out of this group is the participant. What about the rest of the people? They are, what are they called? They are called confederates. How many? 9 people will be confederates. So what was the experiment all about? One card will have a line. The other card will have 3 lines. So 3 lines, obviously, clearly, they would be of a different size compared to this one. Clearly, all 3. Distinctly, you can tell whether this line is equal to this or not. Right? So A, B, C. Which line matches this line? So answer has to be none of them. Or maybe one of the lines actually matches. The other 2 do not match. The answer has to be C. When asked individually, people were answering C. It is clear. When asked with a group, all the people say 9 if they answer. B is the one which is matching the standard line. This is the standard line. There was a very high chance of this person as a participant to say B is the answer. There was a very high chance. So if all 9 said B is the answer, the other participant would also say B is the answer. B is the right fit. On the other hand, even if one participant, one confederate, 8 confederates said it is B, and one confederate said it is A, the chance of this person choosing A or B would drop significantly. Now we would think, okay, even in the group there is some mismatch. It means maybe what I'm thinking is right. C can be the answer. So if it is equally split, So 4 people for B, 4 people for A. Now what would he do? There is a high chance he might choose C as well. Right? So this is conformity experiment. What is conformity? Conformity is going by what the group does. Conform, not confirm. Right? Confirm is different. Conform, going with the form that is established. Right? So this was Solomon Asch experiment. And what is the next thing we were supposed to study? So no. There is one more part. Psychology in India, right? I think we are still left with one more part. Psychology in everyday life is done. So we learned about critical thinking as well. Can you do a very quick recap of what we have done in the last class? Very quick recap of last class. Psychology as science, and then positivism, and then social science or natural science. So we said it is a hybrid science. After that, scientific method. What is scientific method? And then we learnt about what are the goals of psychology as a science. And then we also learnt steps in scientific method. So that is where we learnt about the hypothesis, theory, right? And all that. And what was next? Values of psychology. What are the values of psychology? Accuracy, objectivity, skepticism, open-mindedness. 4. What was next? Psychology is clearly a science. And then we learned about common sense and intuitive thought. Why they are wrong most of the time. Under that we learned about certain things. So under that we learned about confirmation bias, availability heuristic, and then rational thinking versus intuitive thought. And then we learned about rational thinking. What is rational thinking all about? It requires critical thinking. What is critical thinking about? What is critical thinking about? Critical thinking. So we talked about 3 things, no? What is rational thinking? What is logic and critical thinking? Reasoning. 3 things. Reason, rational thinking, and logic. What is the difference between the 3? Yes. And then we learned more in detail about critical thinking. Yes. I think that's where we had stopped. And we also learned about psychology in everyday life, how it can be applied to study effectively. This is what we learned. So application of psychology. In everyday life, comes at different levels. 1, at a personal level. At a personal level. At a personal level, we get to understand ourselves better. Understanding of our own self becomes better. That is, self-awareness increases. self-awareness increases. And we are going to have a balanced self-concept. What is a balanced self-concept? Because we are self-aware. So what is the meaning of self-awareness? I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, I know my needs, right? So I clearly know the boundaries of who I am, because of which I am not going to have the wrong expectations from myself, which means what I want is ideal self, or what I want to become is ideal self. What I really am is the real self. When I say balanced self concept, there is no mismatch between what I want to be and what I really am already. So the real self and the ideal self will be pretty much the same. So there is not going to be a lot of disturbance within us. Don't you think all the problems we have in our life, or the reason for our unhappiness, mostly is because we want to become something which we are not presently? We are unhappy because we want things which we don't have presently, and you also foresee that it is not achievable. That is why we are unhappy. On the other hand, if we accept, if we are clearly knowing, this is all I can become in my life, maximum this is what I can become, and you are almost there, then you will be happy. I have never studied in my life, let's say. The maximum I can think about myself is that what, see, I have not studied, which means this is what I can become. What can I become? At best, in my entire life, I can have 3 meals. I can work hard, have 3 meals. Probably build a house with 1 room. A shelter, 3 times food. That's it. Insurance, pension, that thought even does not come. When a person thinks like this and is able to achieve these things, the person will be happy. So we were having a discussion the other day. The reason for unhappiness is this, and we were discussing the reason for unhappiness is studying. When you study too much, you have a very broad worldview. You want many things. See, you got this knowledge because of studying, and because you have studied, you want many things. Had you not studied, probably you would not be exposed to the information at all. If you did not have the idea of the mobile phones at all, there was no way you could learn about mobile phones. Because you have studied, you are able to understand everything that comes in the mobile phones or the technologies that comes in. Because you know all these things, you are inclined to get these things. Otherwise, you would be, see, as of now, you are completely away from the science part, as in actual research part, which happens in the labs. Because you clearly know, I can't understand it. Quantum physics, I can't understand. Leave it aside. Just like that, if you did not have the knowledge at all, mobile phones, I don't understand. Leave it aside. Yes? So life would have been much more simpler had you not studied. So this kind of a discussion we were having, but that is not the right way to look at it. So what is this? When you know clearly what you are and what you can become at max, the chances are that you are going to have a balanced self-concept. And that comes only with what? Self-awareness. So when you study psychology, you are going to develop self-awareness. Okay. Next. Why can we develop this, self-concept, that is balanced self-concept? It is because the knowledge of psychology, will counter the extreme thoughts of excessive self-enhancement, the extreme thoughts of excessive self-enhancement, or the other extreme of self-depreciation. We can also call this as extreme self-enhancement, can also be called as self-aggrandizement, self-aggrandizing. That is, no need to take that word. So it is about thinking about yourself to be something very big about yourself. So self-enhancement, excessive self-enhancement, that is also bad. Excessive self-depreciation, thinking lowly about yourself, that is also bad. Thinking excessively about yourself or too grand about yourself is also bad. Awareness or the knowledge of psychology will clearly tell you, okay, this is too much what you are thinking, or it is too less what you are thinking about yourself. Clear? A correct assessment of who you are. Next, it promotes, the knowledge of psychology promotes stress management, better decision making, habit cultivation. So when I say habit cultivation, like how to generate interest in a particular subject, how to study effectively. When you study effectively, studying becomes a habit. Okay, we don't like many of the things in our lives because we don't have a method to it. When you have a method to it, obviously we'll start liking it. Yes. Second, family and community level. How psychology is going to be helpful at a family and community level. The example which we took, psychology in everyday life example, that is studying effectively. What is it? It is for personal level. At personal level, how psychology is helpful. So, how to make studying effective. So that is where it comes. Second level is family and community level. At a community level, we have the problems of alcoholism. Psychology tries to find solutions. Alcoholism, delinquents, who are the delinquents? Delinquent, you don't know? So deviants, basically deviants in the society. There are norms who breach the norms continuously, delinquents. So we can't clearly call them as criminals. So these are delinquents who keep breaking the laws. So all people who break the laws, are they criminals? No. Okay. Criminals, at a family level, problematic relationships, family conflicts, addressing communication gaps within the family. Okay. It tries to come up with solutions for intergroup tensions. radicalization. So for all these things, psychology tries to come up with solutions. It studies the groups, it studies the relationships between people and tries to come up with solutions for these. Okay, how to deal with criminals, what sort of correctional facilities they should have, what sort of rehabilitation programs they should have. So they find the root cause and then try to find the solutions to it. Third level, national and global level. Third, national and global level. Wider problems which affect the society, like illiteracy, problems related to education, educational problems, health, environment, equality, social justice, integrity, poverty, environmental issues. In all these areas, the knowledge of psychology is very, very important. Take, for example, education. So because we have psychology and its experiments and its studies and the research, because of this itself, we are able to understand different kinds of people require different kinds of education. So people with low IQ, certain kind of education, certain kind of interventions we call, right? Certain kind of intervention is required. People who have normal intelligence, different kind, blessed or gifted, different kind of education. This we are able to understand because of psychology. Health related field, when we look at it, there is something called as vaccine hesitation. How to understand vaccine hesitation, how to solve this problem. So these are all the problems that we face at a national scale. Environmental problem, for example, what is the environmental problem? Why people are not adopting environment friendly methods? While everybody speaks about global warming, why do people not adopt? Why is it people do not adopt? You tell me. So shared responsibility because of this. And also, what is it? The cost of being sustainable. So if you want to adopt sustainable development measures or sustainable ways of living, it is pretty costly. So the methods we have, it is costly. 2, awareness problem is there. 3, so only yesterday I was having a conversation with one of the persons who works in the waste management company. So that person is a eco-friendly guy, very eco-friendly person is what he claimed. And in fact, that is shown in his actions as well. So what are his actions? He has quit a well-paying, IT job and joined this firm, which is about waste management and sustainable ways of life. He has joined it. And he was saying, I thought life is going to be very, very different because I am following my passion. But once I joined here, I came to understand it is very, very difficult. Why is it very, very difficult? See, the company is going to grow only when it is able to sell a product. The product they are selling is sustainable products. And there are not many buyers to buy those products. Why are there not many people? Because the cost itself is higher. Be it the organic, foods, be it the, sustainable products, eco-friendly products. So why people are not ready to adopt when they clearly know this is a problem? Probably the communication is the problem from the government side as well. Indian leaders, the government says that, Indian government says that global warming is there. Who is the leader of the world? Who is the global leader? USA is considered to be the global leader. What does USA say? There is nothing like global warming at all. When there are mixed signals like this, people are also like, these people themselves are not serious. Why should we be serious? Yes. So mixed, communication, mixed lines of communication can be one of the problems. Apart from that, there are costs which can actually pinch the pockets of the normal individuals quite easily. Apart from that, what else is there? Can you state any other problem? Any other problem? The policies are supposed to be implemented on ground. So ground level implementation problems. Yes. So going into the details of these things and finding the causes and how to correct these problems is where psychology comes in handy. Okay. Next. And in professional settings. Finally, in professional settings also. When we say professional settings, it can be corporate offices, in hospitals, schools, industries, military, everywhere. Psychology comes in handy for all these things. For recruitment, it is useful. For training, it is useful. For restructuring of the firm, right? For the advertisements, in the advertising industry, everywhere. Psychology comes in handy, the knowledge of psychology. So, psychology in everyday life, when we say it is useful at different levels, and then you can say, on each level, you can give one example, a short example. So that would be your answer. Okay. So when we say, how is psychology useful to solve a social problem? So what is a social problem? A community level problem or a national level problem. So you take that and how psychology knowledge is going to help you solve this problem. So that we are going to learn in paper 2. Okay, in detail. Fine. Next is psychology in India, right? So even before psychology became a modern science, India had started to think about, it has a very rich philosophical background as well as, ancient roots when it comes to thinking about mind. So a very long history. It has ancient roots when it comes to thinking about mind, soul, consciousness. So it has very rich traditions. When it comes to the thoughts of mind, consciousness, soul, and consequently, because it was studying all these things, life, and consequently, life and human behavior. It was consequently studying life and human behavior as well. The thinking we are referring to, all these thoughts we are referring to, comes from the Vedas, Upanishads, Smritis. The Vedas, Upanishads, and Smritis. When you look at the ancient thought as a whole, Indian, ancient Indian thought about all these things as a whole, what do they say? The first thing, the main goals of ancient philosophical thought. So we can say the main goals of ancient philosophical thought were these. We are not talking about psychology, remember. We are talking about ancient philosophical thought. The first thing is self-realization. Self-realization and removal of suffering. Self-realization and removal of suffering. This is the first thing. So the aim is not to study what mind is. The aim is not to study what soul is. The aim is to understand who I am. Who am I? So that question. Understanding who am I? Basically, it looks more like we are talking about what? The concept of self in the West. This is the concept of self or ego in the West. Okay. And also it aims at what? Removal of suffering, pain, stress, suffering. How to remove these things. The second important aim of ancient philosophical thought, Indian ancient philosophical thought, is the balancing of the mind, body, balancing of the mind, body, and spirit. The balance of mind, body, and spirit, a soul. Which essentially means the thoughts, the body, and the inner self, which is the soul, are in harmony. They should be in harmony in order to be happy. For example, this is what you find in the physical exercises to be done. At the same time, breathing is to be done. At the same time, meditation is to be done. So yoga, breathing, and meditation brings you to a state where you feel sort of happy. So what is this? The balance of body, mind, and spirit. Understood? This is what ancient philosophical thought tells us. Third, a holistic vision of life. Second is balance. Third, A holistic, HOLISTIC, not WHO. A holistic vision of life. So what does this mean? We generally look at life as parts, as in work life, personal life, community life. What ancient philosophical thought says is that life is a whole when all the parts of life are integrated with one another. As in, you should not see work life to be different from your personal life. So when we say life, life includes everything. Say for example, if you cheat at workplace, it's not just a mistake at workplace, it's a mistake in your life. That's how you are supposed to see it. Understood? So committing a mistake in one sphere cannot be seen as a mistake in that sphere only. It's a mistake in your life. This is how we are supposed to see it. When we look at it this way, so the mistake I commit in personal life, if I see it as a mistake in my life itself, I will not commit this mistake. Yes. So when you separate your life into different parts, the chances of committing mistakes will be more, and the chances of you regretting will also be more. That is why I look at life as a whole, not as parts. So these are the three most important goals of ancient philosophical thought, Indian ancient philosophical thought. When we look at how life is seen in the ancient philosophical thought, so the perspectives about life in the ancient philosophical thought, the first thing, is that we are not just individuals. Instead, we are a part of a larger universe. We are a part of a larger universe. We are part of something infinite. When do we understand we are a part of something which is infinite? Something which is, much bigger than ourselves. This is the second perspective. We will be able to understand, according to ancient philosophical thought, we will be able to understand that we are not just individuals living individual life. We are part of a larger thing, larger universe. Once we practice meditation, prayer, self-discipline, that's when we feel like we are connected with something greater than ourselves. There exists something greater than us. So our life is not just ours, much beyond ours. This is what is known as spiritual transcendence. Spiritual transcendence. Transcend is to go beyond. Okay. growth of an individual is not to be measured by the way of material things. What are the material things? Money, power. True progress is when we move towards wisdom, compassion, and selflessness. Okay, you tell me, of all the values that you can think of, which value should be considered to be the highest value? Okay, let's see your thought process. Kindness. Okay. Respect. Any other value? Humility. So kindness, humility. Anything else? Selflessness. Okay. Empathy. Okay. Compassion here. Anything else? These should be the highest values according to you. Which is the highest value according to Socrates? Wisdom is the highest value. Don't you think only a wise person will be able to understand why he or she should be kind, why he or she should be empathetic, when to be empathetic, when not to be empathetic? By that measure, wisdom is the highest value. Wisdom trumps all other values. Wisdom is the highest value. What is the base for wisdom? Knowledge. It is the highest value. Okay. So, moving towards wisdom, selflessness, compassion, that is seen as real progress according to Indian perspective. Finally, the last one, our spirit or Atman, is not limited by the body. It is not limited by the body or mind. When we realize this, we can reach a state of peace, which exists beyond ordinary thinking. Okay. Now, this is the philosophical thought process. We will look at the psychological view. The next thing is the psychological view from the classical traditions, Indian classical traditions or Indian philosophy, Indian ancient thoughts. So ancient or classical traditions, what do they speak of psychology? What do they say about it? So it was more about life, soul, and everything, the philosophical thought. So psychology in particular, what do they say about it? So we are talking now about consciousness, maybe. So Indian psychological perspective, classical Indian psychological perspective, or ancient psychological perspective. This perspective is given by Rao in 2011. What is the modern psychology's focus?